Lords, I thank everyone who's participated in this, I think, very informed and very informative debate. Now, the Noble Lady Baroness Boycott stressed the basis of this crime as being wanton and deliberate action, and used some two very clear examples. Exxon in 1977 in terms of its understanding then of the climate emergency, and indeed the flagrant breaches of the law that are occurring on our own shores in terms of the treatment of our water supplies and the spillage of sewering into them. And I think those are two useful examples of how we think an ecocide law would actually operate in practice. Because if we can imagine for a second being in a boardroom and hearing the chief legal officer saying to the chief executive officer, well, if we took this action, the law of ecocide might just be used, and what a powerful force that would be. Because as the Noble Lady Baroness Fox says, it is a powerful word, and it's a rightfully powerful word of destroying our natural world on which we all depend. And I think the Noble Lady Baroness Boycott made a very important point by saying we can't expect the world to go forward if we're not prepared to adopt this law and take action ourselves. Now, the Noble Lady Baroness Fox suggested that this was looking at human interaction with nature in a wholly negative way. I'm not sure how she could regard the two examples given by the Noble Lady Baroness Boycott as anything but wholly negative. And the Noble Lady Baroness Fox suggested that at times this term has been used metaphorically. But of course, that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about the law. The term murder is often used metaphorically, but that doesn't stop it being an essential legal charge used in a legal way. And the Noble Lady Baroness Fox also referred to the needs of the Global South. It is, of course, the Global South that suffered probably the largest amounts of environmental damage, human rights abuse, the poverty and inequality of our extractive, exploitative approach to nature. We have all around us the products of the Global South's land, and also, of course, the Global South's labour and ingenuity, most often insufficiently remunerated. Now, the Noble Lady Baroness Whittaker, I must begin by, as well as thanking her for her report, commending her on championing the issue of ecocide through written questions. And she highlighted the international support for the creation of this crime, and also the fact that Britain, Philip Sands QC, is working on this very much in the leading role in this, which reflects the UK's long-term position as a leader in international human rights law and legal protection. Now, the Noble Lord Thomas, I thank him for his hugely informed and thoughtful contribution and expression of support for the principles. And I think the historical perspective that the Noble Lord provided was also particularly useful, acknowledging that international law has evolved with international standards, and highlighting the developing impetus towards a crime of ecocide. He stressed the global role and the need for leadership, and called for the UK to step forward and take a lead. Now, the Noble Lord Khan called for a constructive role for the UK in the negotiations, and I appreciate that call, which very much reflects the contents of my Amendment 287. He spoke of it, I think, very effectively, of the law of ecocide as defending the land itself, and also made the link to the many declarations of climate and nature emergencies. Now, the Noble Lord Goldsmith gave us a very full account of the sixth great extinction and the way in which ecological damage doesn't just impact on nature, but on human health and life, as we've seen with COVID. And now, he said that there was no consensus, but surely the UK could and should, as a nation, global Britain, aiming to be world leading, be providing that leadership. Now, I acknowledge his concern about the reform of the International Criminal Court, but that's a separate issue from the nature of the Rome Statute. And the Noble Lord the Minister suggested there was little prospect of this international drive succeeding. Well, that's clearly not the view being taken by the EU. But before we come to the conclusion of this group, there was a couple of questions that the Noble Lord the Minister was asked that weren't answered, so I would like to put them to him again. First of all, I asked would he be prepared to meet with Stop Ecocide campaigners and to ask his officials to take a look at the proposed new international definition. And the Noble Lord Thomas said would the government ask the law commissions to consider this issue. So can I please put those two questions to the Noble Lord the Minister before we proceed?